As summer approaches, the way we're traveling is shifting. New data from the U.S. Travel Association shows that we're taking shorter, closer to home trips, and maybe that's partly due to the gas prices, of course, squeezing budgets, and then uncertainty in the global oil markets. So that trend might actually accelerate. Consumer analyst and travel industry expert Regina Lewis joining us right now. Hi, Regina.
Hi, Jane. Thank you.
So are we pulling back on travel, or are we just doing it differently?
I think that everything you spelled out points to some trend lines. There's a recalibration, right? So the U.S. Travel Association looks at the aggregate data and does their own proprietary research, and it is indicating an affordability lens, right? Makes perfect sense. But I also think it's an opportunity, right, for refreshingly analog experiences. Log off. Where do you go? Novelty wins, and travel is broadening. So definitely a recalibration. It's not a question of if people will travel, it's a matter of when, where, and how.
All right. So what early trends are you seeing that might surprise us?
Definitely the shorter duration, right? So instead of vacations, in fact, if you listen for the vernacular, you're going to hear trips. So trips. Thursday becomes the new Friday. A lot of very frequent, high frequency, long weekends. Almost every weekend becomes 4th of July. By necessity, if you have that strategy, it's going to be shorter duration. Think regional flights. And boy, is Charlotte well positioned for that, right? What an enviable position to be in because you're a jumping off point. And then third is, how do I not break the bank when I get there? Right, again, tracking back to that affordability lens, a lot of free events, a lot of outdoor events, including hiking, trails, things that play into wellness. Again, get you off your phone, get more steps in, and don't break the bank.
Yeah, so value-driven decisions, right?
Absolutely.
Does that mean we're also doing fewer nights? You said the long weekends are helping out rather than putting in one big chunk?
Well, yes, and the starting point, which is a great tip, is to play into your existing calendar. So two trends. I was really struck by everyone in the travel and tourism industry is focused on groups, right? Small businesses and increasingly sports teams, right? So if you have someone in amateur sports or if you follow a league, that really drives a lot of traffic. So sometimes when you say, hey, where are you going this summer? It falls flat because a lot of families I speak with in person and on air will say, well, obviously where the tournament is. So that's tournications, piggybacking off somewhere you're already going for the cheer event, the soccer, the football combine, whatever that is. It's a follow-on leisure, right? The mix of business and leisure travel. So piggyback your current schedule, great jumping off point, and then add on to it. So that's your best economic move because some of those things are already determining where you're headed.
All right. Tournication. I like that.
I know.
And then speaking of sports, of course, FIFA is one of the big ones coming this summer. We have America's 250, right? So a lot of people are going to plan around July 4th. What is the factor there in trying to make a budget-conscious trip then around an event like that? Does it depend on your budget, where you're going, the event itself? What can families do?
I think it's all of the above, right? So play to the theme, but not necessarily the price tag. So we don't all go to the Super Bowl, but we go to Super Bowl parties. FIFA, where is the sports team practicing? It's largely universities, if you research this. So maybe you go to the local pub or restaurant and you feel like you're at the game and you get the experience in a secondary market. Many of the games are in and around secondary markets and airports. So play to that counter programming, if you will. One of the things that I'm noticing, a lot of people saying, oh yeah, I know 4th of July is going to be spectacular. The greatest of the greatest, right? The 250th birthday. There's a lot of weekends around that. And so what I would encourage people to think about is every weekend is 4th of July. Extend those weekends, play into FIFA, play into the tournication that you're already going to, play into leisure, the combination of business and leisure travel. Make that your starting point and then piggyback off of it.
And I'd be remiss if that doesn't factor into these gas prices. That's all I hear about is, gas
Yes,
last
I
week
know.
was, gas. It keeps on going up. I'm waiting for the fuel costs to come down. But, how much of a factor then will fuel prices be for families planning that trip?
I think it's an absolutely fair factor, right? I don't mean to dismiss that at all. I will tell you, and it's very interesting in studying some of the data, that the thing that really helps curb against that, and it's counterintuitive, is something called vacation anticipation. So get these piggyback, whether it's a standalone road trip, a short regional flight from Charlotte, on the calendar, because the research indicates that 8 weeks prior, a full 8 weeks, you get the optimistic upside of anticipating that event. In fact, they call it the anticipation phase. New York Times had a great headline. It said, "Great vacation, and we haven't even gone yet." Don't miss that. Right, 8 weeks gets you from here to 4th of July, and it's really important, and it actually helps curb against, like, my first instinct was, well, wow, you've raised expectations when we get there, and the family says, "You told me this was going to be great," and it's not. It actually does the opposite. That optimistic prelude glosses over, helps the brain say, "Hey, you know what? We got here." Almost no one regrets it once you get there, once you start making the memories. So it's a great trick. Get it on the calendar. You don't have to have all the details, just a sum for you and your family to latch onto.
All right, very good. What else should we know this morning for our summer vacations of 2026, Regina?
Well, I think if you're Charlotte, you have got America 250. You mentioned it. So if ever there was, it's called experience stacking, right? So if you head east, that's directionally where you're going to hit the most states. Most Americans have been to fewer than 10 states. This is the summer to increase that to 12, 13, 15. And if you head east, you can experience stack and make use of the journey along the way, right? Go to DC, Philly, Boston. You've got, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, but tack on New Hampshire and Vermont. So I think that's kind of an interesting plan for this summer. And of course, if you head in the other direction, just, Asheville, Knoxville, make your way to Indianapolis, discover these smaller cities, just as Charlotte has done. Everyone knows and loves Charlotte. There are the Indianapolises, the Clevelands of the world along the way. Let's get that number up from 10 to 15, 20. This is the summer to do that.
All right, that sounds like fun. Although, don't they call themselves the other Queen City or the Queen City? We're the Queen City.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Cincinnati does, for the record. Regina Lewis, thank you so much for your insight. Appreciate the time.
Of course. Thanks.